fuck this dude. So there's articles being written about what an asshole Russell has become. And people who are describing him as the asshole he is are apparently fanning the flames of his conspiratorial belief that it's the mainstream, establishment and the Illuminati or some shit that are coming after him, instead of genuine people looking at what he used to talk about and be like and what he's talking about now and going, what the fuck happened to that dude? Why is he such an asshole now, right? No, it's not that. It's not people actually recognizing that he's talking out of his ass a lot, excusing a lot of hateful shit, and basically clearing a path for it. He's doing the hippie Alex Jones version of the Tucker Carlson thing of I'm just asking questions. That shit. And it's anybody can spot it. It's self-evident, but it couldn't possibly be the Occam's razor of you have a meditation channel and you used to view yourself as sort of a post-addiction spiritual guru that kind of was relatively likable and a little bit silly and kind of an easygoing Brit, right? And then you transitioned into this hippie Alex Jones shit, and people were left scratching their head. It couldn't possibly be that. No, it has to be that there's a they and a them, and the them are coming for you. The they. The theys are because they don't want you to see they don't want to be part of the conversation. They don't want you ever to pitch your fucking shows in Bristol and Hull and all, right, that shit. All right, so let's see, shall we? The title of this video is, They're Coming for Me. No, they're not. They're writing about you, Russell. Fuck off. You're famous, you have 5 million followers. This video itself has gotten 600,000 views. They're not coming for you. You stuck your head up and started bullshitting everybody, and people noticed. They're coming for you.
Mainstream media are coming for me and coming for this channel.
Yeah, they're coming for me and they're coming for this channel, which is me, actually.
I'm a conspiracy right-wing nut and an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, you forgot asshole.
You don't think that I'm those things, and I don't think that I'm those things.
I don't care if you agree on the label. Again, my labels for you are based on my opinion of you, not on your opinion of you. And also, you recognize just by going, tell me in the comments below. Well, I noticed a lot of you guys aren't fans of this Chomsky quote that I put up yesterday. And a lot of you are saying that QAnon's been kind of treated shamefully. Like when he starts doing that, you're like, okay, you're just following whatever they're throwing. So that you're talking about in your own chat room, you don't think that about me, right? People watching this, and I don't think that about me. All I'm doing is videos that will make a lot of money for you, and you're the kind of people that are telling me what videos to do. Jesus.
Could there be any other reason why the mainstream media and establishment want to shut down open discourse and...
What open discourse?
Consent.
Oh. Ooh. There could be. Media attacks. Uh-oh. It's an attack. It's not... It couldn't be a review. You're not big... How about media criticism? Attacks? Did somebody hit you with a newspaper? Russell. What happened? Did someone with a zine write something nasty?
Hello there, you 5.2 million awakening wonders.
What's the awakening part? Citation needed.
Glory unto thee. Let's stay awake. Let's stay focused. Let's stay conscious. Let's stay in the conversation.
Let's stay inside a brand new Chevy. I know you're the kind of driver who's looking for something that's roomy yet sporty.
Obviously today I'm talking...
I don't know why the fuck the hand... I swear to God, this is like year one public speaking bullshit. It's he moves like somebody who's nervous about their TED Talk.
To you about something personal. There's been a spate of articles about me saying I'm right-wing, I'm a conspiracy theorist, I'm the new Joe Rogan.
No, they're not saying you're the new Joe Rogan. They're saying you're a Joe Rogan. I will stick with hippie Alex Jones.
That one, Joe Rogan is a triumphant voice in a difficult space. I love Joe Rogan, I won't deny that.
I want to be on there. I need it. I really do. I'm actually going for his money, actually. I'm trying to be like, if, people who don't like MMA, I'd like to be their Joe Rogan.
So, what could be the reason behind it?
Because you are? Because you do? The obvious thing would be is that a bunch of people are looking at you finally because you got 5 million viewers and you're getting some spread, and people like me have drawn attention to the fact that you're doing this shit. Hi there. Yeah. Yeah, the clips that I make get shared. Yeah, they do. Just saying. The little channel that could. Got some influence, just saying. Because people are like, oh, I didn't realize that this guy was such an asshole until Hal pointed it out. Yep.
The initial articles have been provoked by a video we did about Justin Trudeau saying that his invocation of the Emergency Act and refusal to rescind it entirely in case of certain financial components against peaceful trucker protests.
Blockades, not peaceful. Blockades. They're not protests. They're not protesting. They're blocking fucking roads where ambulances can't get through. Russell, if I drove to your house and I thought you were disseminating hateful shit and you were endangering people's lives, and I parked a truck across your driveway so you could not come and go, would you call that a protest? Even if I did it on a public road, at the end of your driveway, I park a truck right across so you cannot come and go from your own driveway. Am I protesting you, or is that a blockade? How many days into my protest do you call it a blockade, Russell? When you need to go to the grocery? When someone slips and falls and you need a fucking ambulance? When does it become a blockade?
Smacks of the kind of authoritarianism that might diminish his right to overtly condemn anti-democratic actions elsewhere. That's what we said. Is that?
Yeah, he calls protest with giant trucks where people are just sleeping in the fucking thing. I don't know why people think that would be different from people with signs standing on a corner saying what they mean. And the fact that money from outside the country was paying for a lot of it, I don't know why he didn't let that go.
To you that I said that? Does that seem reasonable?
No, it doesn't. You're being an asshole. You're conflating things on purpose.
Don't know, we'll work it out. Comments below. Stay to the end.
Yeah, stay to the end of the video. That's how I make money. Also, comment below because that also nickels.
Video, because there's a lot of complexity. Earlier.
Because there's a lot. Stay to the end of the video because there's a lot of complexity. Cut. Look at this edit. Shit. Fucking hell, dude. Watch this edit. There's a lot of complexity. Cut.
No, we'll work it out. Comments below. Stay to the end of the video because there's a lot of complexity. Earlier in the history.
It's like, I had to cut. I'm sorry. I had to cut some of the complexity for time. Yeah. There's a lot. You know what? Sometimes you can have too much complexity, honestly. I just don't think you guys can handle it.
This channel, we've been accused of being anti-vax simply for saying unvaccinated people might have rights.
Yeah, that's all you said.
That's been another thing. We talked about the Wuhan.
Yeah, is that all you said, Russell? Is that all you said? That unvaccinated people might have rights? Gee, it sounds so awful when you put it that way.
Lab leak theory, well, that seems to be an evolving situation too.
Well, because there's a difference between the lab leak theory and the disseminated bioweapon theory, or the idea that a bioweapon leaked from the lab, or a gain-of-function virus leaked from the lab, or a natural virus leaked from the lab, which are three very distinct ideas, right? Very distinct. And especially the part where it's actionable, which is what the initial problem was in most press, was that when people were talking about this, they were referring to it in the Jim Jordan conversations about it basically being, because of gain of function, they were working on a bioweapon. And the Chinese allowed it to get out on purpose. It was a phony leak. It was from the Wuhan lab. It wasn't even the leak part. A lot of the conversation about a lab leak was their fallback. Like, no. I was saying it got out accidentally. No, you were saying they made it there with the intention of one day attacking the world. That's a huge fucking assertion about the Chinese government, but also about the Chinese people and the assertion that they are working on some sort of like global hit attempt on a percentage of the Earth's population. You can understand why loose conversation about that would be frowned upon in most, social media platforms. Whereas accidentally leaking out, or the lack of security there, which by the way, Trump turned gain-of-function research back on and then stopped paying for security at Wuhan. Weird. That's never brought up. Russell didn't bring that up. That's weird. But the idea that there's a wet market nearby and there's the lab, and there was a tendency at that lab for people to take animals that were used here and sell them at the wet market when it was all done, or buy animals from the wet market for use in the lab. So the crisscross in there deserves some scrutiny. But asserting that it was a lab leak or what have you is part of the problem. And everybody talking about it is like, I knew it. That's the problem.
We're going to get into it in depth. We're going to look at some of the accusations and the publications that have made those accusations.
Yeah, so you know who they are. The Independent. Right. What an ironically named organization.
Make sure that they're...
Yeah, because you are.
But before that, I want to let you know that I'm on tour and I want...
Yeah, we know. Fuck you.
Plymouth.
Yeah.
Now, let's get into this story.
Yeah, now that we've got the sales out of the way. By the way, don't forget to like and subscribe. How am I doing, Russell? Is this good? Someone put a gleam in later.
Sort of calling, they're coming for me. As you know...
Yeah, I was going to call it they're coming for me, even though, as you can see out the window, no one is.
The point...
No, it isn't. Citation needed. The point of this channel is to be intentionally contrarian. That's not having an open conversation. It is using the anti-establishment bent of a certain number of YouTube viewers and political activists and political viewers and consumers of media in the United States and the UK and possibly parts of Europe to make money. That's what it's for.
And much of what we do is about critiquing news, analysing the type of content you get in the mainstream media or the corporate media or however you refer to it, looking at whether or not there's an agenda at play, the diminishing...
There is an agenda at play. You have an agenda, Russell. And part of your agenda is the illusion that you don't have one. That's the scam.
Of complexity. There's lots of things we look at. So that's what the...
Yeah, I'm just asking questions. I am, singularly picking out people that only attack the West. But don't we hear enough people attacking Russia for bombing places? I mean, shouldn't there be someone there to go, maybe they deserve it. Maybe the Ukrainians, we know it's terrible, but perhaps they had it coming.
The point of this channel is, we don't claim to be a news channel. We're not sending out journalists and going, oh my God.
There's no we. This isn't a we. Like he has a podcast and somebody else helps him record it. This ain't a we, man. My channel ain't a we. It's me. Like CSL helps me pick clips and stuff, but I'm not pretending that like I sit at a fucking round table to hear what the opinion I should give on this show is, and I'm very overt about who I am and what I believe. And even my fucking Twitter is @HalSparks. It's my goddamn name, not Rusty Rockets. What?
What's happening over there?
Oh, is it quiet? Is it that quiet? Hold on, 1 second.
We're looking at news and analysing news.
Yeah, we're just looking at news and analysing it with the help of Glenn Greenwald and Jimmy Dore and no one else. And only people who think like those two people. And the Tucker Carlsons of the world. You know, because I like to get a different viewpoint than the ones that I already agree with. Except I don't.
That's what we're doing, just to be clear. So we're not claiming to be a news channel. So
No, you're a bullshitting channel. You're claiming to not have an agenda, which is the scariest and most fucked up part of it.
the idea of misinformation, this is opinion. This is...
Yeah, it's opinion. Oh, is that what you're reading? Is that what you, when you read somebody else's opinion and then you go see and you recognize that the opinion piece that you're reading isn't materially valid about anything. It's just you sharing the opinion of someone else as if it's information as opposed to a second-hand opinion.
Obviously my opinion. We check our sources. We never say anything that can't be backed up. And you'll be interested to know that in the many articles of criticism of this channel and what we do here, no one is able to say this thing. For example...
Yes, they are. For example, this thing. Here's one. Shall we? Hold on one second. And I think this is actually in one of the criticisms that people have for him. Let me look this up real quick and grab this. Brand, and there we go. Russell Brand. Here we go.
For example,
quit it. Oh, go away, you bastard. This guy right here. Here you go.
Look, it's me, Brand.
Hey, it's Russell. Shut up. I don't care. All right, X. Get out of here. There we go. So one of the criticisms is that you do all of these paranoid delusion bullshits, these thumbnails that are insane, and then that are like all paranoid fantasies. Look at this shit. Oh, look at Jimmy Dore short. They're coming for me. It's happening. Look at the bloody thumb on Facebook. The fuck? This could get even worse. It's all starting to make sense. This is the one we talked about the other day. Look at this. Look at the UN logo and a fucking UPC symbol on the back of the neck of all these people. This is what they're not telling you about Russia. Here's Boris Johnson, Putin in the background, Biden, and just money raining down. How did we miss this? This video, look at that one. This is Justin Trudeau, and look who's peeking over his shoulder like he's giving him a Moon River. Xi Jinping. This is what they've been hiding. Ukraine doesn't have biolabs, right? This is the whole. Yeah, they've got biolabs. I mean, so why wouldn't you bomb a maternity ward? Yeah, they got the kind of biolabs like Quest Diagnostics where you send out for blood tests. And they capture pathogens like a bunch of other European places in case there's a new strain of anthrax or a fucking wheat blight you have to watch out for. But, I mean, what's the difference between that and a bioweapons lab? Biolab, bioweapons lab. The only word that matters is weapons. And just because they're not using it doesn't mean it's not there, right? That shit. We should be very concerned about this. This is Ukraine. This is the Ukrainian flag, a handshake and money. Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. The World Economic Forum, here's a bunch of people with QR codes on their heads and masks, just UPCs. Here's a little short. This is another one. We've been lied to about why the Ukraine war began. There's little Zelensky in between Biden and Putin. The narrative is collapsing. Like there's a vial for the vaccine, and there's Fauci. Yeah, and there's good. Oh, look, you've been distracted about Bitcoin. Joe Biden is apparently wearing a Bitcoin medallion now. So this is why Ukraine is being attacked, because Joe Biden shook hands with Putin. This is some of the criticism. Think about this particular one and who this asshole says he is. Think about who, I'm going to blow this up even bigger. Think about who Russell says he is. It's just opinion. I'm not a news organization. I'm just telling you these things. We're just talking. I want to have an open conversation, right? That's what we want to have. And then look at this fucking thumbnail. Who is this attracting? This has 1.2 million views. This is 3 days old. It's got a 1.2 million views. Look at this head with the World Health Organization and the like logo on it and a UPC symbol on your fucking neck. And tell me that this is just I want to talk about things. I just want to discuss these things. We got to be able to talk about these things. Okay, so that's one of the things. Like, they don't even point to anything specific. Well, we just saw there's an article specifically that I think he's probably going to bring up because he showed a picture of it, and I saw one of them earlier. That literally the writer talks about how fucking insane his thumbnails are and how they are absolutely tailored towards the David Icke, Alex Jones crowd.
Let's just say the anti-vax thing. You know, like Russell Brand is anti-vax. I've never said that I'm anti-vax.
No, I've never said I'm anti-vax. What I've said is maybe, people who can't get the vaccine should have rights.
It is that perhaps are reluctant to become vaccinated shouldn't be treated as criminals, condemned, and treated as social pariahs.
They're not. People who are reluctant or have a, vaccine hesitancy. Nobody was shit-talking people who had vaccine hesitancy. It was the people who were asserting that it had an RFID chip in it and all that bullshit.
One reason being that there seems to be an enormous crossover with people that are poor, people that are from non-majority populations in the country.
He means black Americans.
I.e. people from ethnic minorities.
Oh, ethnic.
There seem to be a large number of unvaccinated people that have reason to be mistrustful of the government.
Yes, because I've given them lots of reasons to be mistrustful of the government, just in time for them to not get vaccinated. But I don't have any part to play in their deaths. I'm just warning them. You've never been able to trust the government before. I mean, except when you drive or fly or most daily interactions. It's amazing how the rest of society fucking works, isn't it? But you shouldn't trust the government. Not when it comes to something like saving your life.
Big corporations like Big Pharma. There seem to be a number of reasons to...
Big Pharma, right.
In fact, a recent study...
By the way, a lot of folks like that they get their insulin from quote-unquote Big Pharma. They get their syringes for taking their insulin from Big Pharma. But they shouldn't trust that either. Should we... I mean, how do you know it's insulin, right? Right, Russell? How do you even know? I mean, it says it. But I mean, can you really trust it, right? I mean, think about it, right?
Published in some of the very publications that have leveled criticism at me, recently revealed that Johnson & Johnson did a study that showed that natural immunity plus less vaccines than they originally suggested could be more effective than the number of vaccines they originally...
Hybrid immunity offers increased protection that is longer lasting. Hybrid immunity, meaning having gotten the vaccine and actually having it. And by the way, that's for theirs, which has been one of the least effective. Had the most issues, got the pause.
Suggested. And remember, this is an ongoing situation, so...
Yeah, right. But why think that new information is innocent? It's got to be a plot.
Knows what permutations may come elsewhere. And
yeah, and by the way, this is an asshole who like 2 videos ago were saying that new information, they're starting to relax masking and vaccine needs or whatever, and this is clearly part of the plan.
Main things we're criticising is this attitude of certainty and condemnation that's continually applied to situations that are clearly changing and shifting.
Yeah, especially when you... Literally, he's talking about these situations. Here's something that's clearly shifting and changing, from a protest about vaccine mandates in Canada to a blockade about a bunch of different issues, and one of the biggest Telegram accounts about the DC convoy is fucking turned into a Q account. It had nothing to do with the rights of truckers to go back and forth over the Canadian border. They don't give a shit. They think the fucking trucks are full of kids. How did we miss this? Ukraine doesn't have biolabs. And this is the fucking thumbnail for Just a Conversation, dummy. The story changes again. Yeah, it's official. They lied. There's more to this, Putin. I've been warned not to talk about this. No, you fucking haven't. We're not allowed to discuss this. Look at this bullshit. It's just a thought. I'm just trying. The establishment are shitting their pants. We did that video, whatever. Are they just puppets? Right. So they, yeah, there's a changing, so they do run the world. Fucking World Economic Forum, with his fucking tendrils. The narrative is shifting. It's Bill Gates. It's the CDC. They're just trying to get us all drugged up. Things are just changing. I just thought yesterday that it was the Illuminati. Today it's like Illuminati Plus.
I'm not in the business of telling you stuff that ain't true.
I'm in the business of implying lies. I don't say lies. I don't have the balls to actually lie as boldly as this. That's why I gesture like this all the fucking time.
We've got enough people doing that.
Yeah, he doesn't want it. That market's already saturated. He's in the implied lying.
Me joining in. I'm trying my best as a flawed and fallible person to be engaged with you in an open discourse so we can...
Bullshit. No, he isn't. No, he fucking well isn't.
Learn together. That's why it's important you stay with me to the end. It's important.
Yeah, it's important you watch this video all the way through.
You subscribe to this channel.
Motherfucker.
One of the newspapers, you probably haven't heard of it. It's a British newspaper called, ironically, The Independent.
Oh, fuck, man. I was kidding, and he actually went for it. Ironically, The Independent, even though they're owned by Rupert Murdoch. Oh, whatever.
The newspaper that calls itself The Independent is possibly up to 50% funded by the Saudi Arabian state. A newspaper that calls itself The Independent is criticising this channel and its content for being somehow duplicitous and...
Yeah, sorry, did you go after the Saudis sometime recently? And they decided to come for you, Russell? Is that what you're saying? They've been half funded by the Saudis? Or a Saudi? Or some Saudis? Or it's part of their attempt to buy influence in England, so they half own The Independent? Or they invested in it? Which part is it? And again, I'm not a big reader of The Independent, but if the assertion is they can't be trusted because they're part owned by the Saudis, it's not like you're going against the Saudis. Ever.
Territorial. Well, I'm not sure that they're in a great position to make those kind of remarks and
and you are?
Make those kind of observations. If you're called The Independent and you're funded by the Saudi Arabian state, you ain't even got past the title without lying. So, it's just a few facts, just to make sure I'm not making...
Well, I think they were named that before the investment came in.
Stuff up. Sultan Mohammed Abul Jadayel...
Sounds sketchy to me.
...a stake of between 25% and 50% in independent digital news and media.
Somewhere between 25 and 50%. Notice how Russell went straight to 50%? This is, and by the way, it's sourced out of The Guardian, which apparently is valid in this. Can we look at this again? Maybe this is a great example. This is a fantastic example. This is his source, right? This is what he's saying. And what do you say, Russell?
A newspaper that calls itself The Independent is criticising this channel and its content for being somehow duplicitous and conspiratorial. Well, I'm not sure that they're in a great position to make those kind of remarks and to make those kind of observations. If you're called The Independent and you're funded by the Saudi Arabian state, you ain't even got past the title without lying. So,
well, they aren't. This one guy owns somewhere between 25 and 50%.
It's just a few facts, just to make sure I'm not making this stuff up.
Just a few facts.
Sultan Mohammed Abul Jadayel owns a stake of between 25% and 50% in independent digital news and media, the holding company of The Independent, according to filings that companies have.
Okay, so he owns a stake of the greater company, but not The Independent by itself. It's a holding company. It has properties underneath it.
Former Culture Secretary Jeremy Wright warned that the ultimate investor may have strong links to the Saudi Arabian state, raising fears that a foreign government may have gained influence over the news direction of two major British publications. Around 60% of the Independent's revenue is derived from advertising, 15% encompasses new product development and digital services, including ad sales, data and technology support. You know, because we've done it before, that the mainstream media channels in the United States make a significant amount of their money from tracking your data, bundling your data, and selling your data. That's not...
Yeah. The cable companies, not NBC.
Tested. That's how the media operates.
Dude, that's how you operate. Like and subscribe below. Let me know what you think.
From their conviction.
Yes, and I am tracking all of your data. I'm just saying. Oh, and yes, you have be afraid, be very afraid.
Models.
It comes from The Guardian, which apparently is an okay source. And then we go to The Intercept, because you're just switching in the middle.
Media corporations.
That available for a fee that, tell you that you're being tracked and therefore not at all, don't have a dog in this fight.
Found that news websites contain the most trackers globally.
Uh-huh. Because they lose so much fucking money and they invest so much money in stuff that they want subscribers to be, and they're tracking which part people go to and they order what you read it, but they do it relatively anonymously. Who gives a shit? More than business, banking, entertainment, or adult websites. Phew!
More than business, banking, entertainment, or even porn. So you're more likely to be tracked by looking at legacy media sites than you are if you looked at a porn site or an...
How much are you tracked on Pornhub versus The Guardian? Again, this goes into the percentage conversation. 20% more, 37% more, 42% more. How much is that? Oh, well, the other one, you enter an email and they do cookies like any other website. But this one, actually, if you've entered your email before, it keeps track of it. So it's 42% more.
Entertainment site. So how are you going to get honest, independent reporting from those guys?
Because they're servicing their readers. They know, they're gathering data, probably, if you accept their cookies, location data. So they're going to put stories at the top that deal with the area you're in. Big fucking whoop.
And it's sort of...
If you've got tracking data turned on your phone, it's already gathered. They're just using that information to curate your news feed. They're not fucking... Good Lord.
Makes sense, doesn't it, that they would be threatened by any other source of information, particularly if that source of information is open about our own fallibility.
You're not open about your own fallibility. You use it as a fucking fake shield. He doesn't believe in his own fallibility. He doesn't even cite it. If you're open about your own fallibility, talk about the horrifying mismatch between your stupid meditation site and your awful thumbnails and your storylines, which are built to make people anxious, afraid, and overwhelmed.
Willing to be mutable and to change the conversation as new information comes available. No ties at all to giant business corporations, although I recognize we're on a big tech platform and we have an ad revenue model so that we can pay staff and run a business and it
pay staff and run a business.
In the real world, that is something that we do.
We're clearly capitalist. We dovetail our storylines to get the most number of eyeballs so we can expand our staff. I mean, that cordwood's not going to cut itself.
About that. We want to be part of an open conversation.
Again, open conversation is going to end up having a TM by the end of it.
With you. We want to provide alternative narratives and not only provide the narratives, invite you to...
Yeah, to write your narratives down below. So, because we do operate on an ad rev model, and that lets the advertisers know that we have engagement.
Create the narratives with us. Because do you know one thing I know? I don't know what's best. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've been wrong many times.
Yeah, cite one. Go ahead.
But I'm beginning to think I'm right about this. Mainstream media is not your friend.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's why you got to come here. You can only trust me. The mainstream media is not your friend. As it says in The Guardian.
Culture is not your friend.
Wait, what is? Pop culture?
The mainstream media is not your friend. The culture is not.
The culture. What do you mean, Western culture or the media culture?
Your friend. The government is not your friend.
Oh, okay, that's by itself. The culture is not your friend. So your music and movie tastes, the TV shows you like, the clothes you wear, not your friend. It's attacking you. I mean, you don't believe me? Just turn your back for a split second, and you wake up in a low-neck shirt with a dumbass necklace that you bought at a curio shop, and because it's very expensive, but it looks wonderfully cheap.
Big business is not your friend. They are operating collegiately in unison to create a set of systems that are beneficial to them and disadvantage you.
Why? Okay, so again, look. This idea that it's all big business. All big business. Which ones? And what do you mean disadvantage? Make a profit off what they give you that you can buy optionally? Wait, what am I supposed to be afraid of? Big Zenith? Do I have to be fear that Big Dell is taking advantage of me? Big Apple?
This threat to their power comes from unionization and mobilization of large groups of people.
Yeah, I agree. I look forward to Russell moving his business to a country that doesn't have free healthcare and forming free healthcare for all of his employees.
They're so nervous about it. They're so aggressive about it. They're so protective about it.
You seem worried. This is the point in the debate where he decided to give up arguing and just sing.
It makes me think that they've got an agenda. The video that's got them all heated up and
is it?
Ross is one we made about Justin Trudeau and Justin Trudeau's introduction of emergency powers to shut down trucker protests, which were largely peaceful, which I said
largely peaceful, except for the guns.
Said on this channel that if you shut down peaceful protest, what you're essentially doing is trying to control dissent.
No, it's not a protest. It's a blockade. And by the way, Russell, if you wanted to blockade something, you couldn't. Nor could I. I don't drive a giant fucking truck. Okay? So these people are using what is effectively material privileges that they have in the same way that if somebody worked for a demolition company and they decided to blow up a fucking bridge because they had access to dynamite, they would not, they would be in a different class of dissent than I am.
Now, look at the next level. If someone points that out, you try to shut down that person.
You're not, by the way, they can protest all they fucking want. They can't blockade a road. That's what's happening. And it was a intentional blockade of ports, of places of entry into Canada.
You've got to stamp it out like whack-a-mole. Like the old woman that swallowed a fly. You've got to swallow a frog and an horse and a cat and a cow to just prevent the truth from getting out.
Or there's a distinct difference between people holding signs and protesting en masse and maybe a couple of dozen people taking up the same amount of space by jamming trucks in the road. Where 10 people or 15 or even 50 people can create a blockade the way 100,000 marchers would do. But they are using the weight of what they're doing to outsize their dissent and claim more validity in the conversation than they actually deserve. Does that make any fucking sense? Maybe there isn't a slippery slope in this situation. Maybe the slippery slope was in the other direction, that these assholes think that Women's March, millions of people in the street, versus 20 truckers blocking a road, same effect on thoroughfares, but a huge difference in, the discourse, the genuine discourse of people.
These people are not what they claim to be. They're not running fair liberal democracies.
Yes, they are.
They use the aesthetic of fair liberal democracies.
Like you use the aesthetic of hippie to sell your Alex Jones bullshit.
They look presentable and they say nice things about being respectful and loving to people from a variety of communities, as we absolutely must be if we're
totally
to build a decent and better world. But when you
not around here, obviously. It's a nice neighborhood I live in. It's a sweet flat. It's not flat. It's more of a country mansion, but whatever.
Centralized state, centralized corporate control, centralized domination.
Yeah, you mean like China and Russia? Oh, no, you don't mean like China and Russia. Centralized dominant control? Yeah, because that's what we have in the United States. I mean, if you really think about it, Fox and Newsmax and OAN and RSBN and MSNBC and CBS News and fucking Netflix, they're all just fingers in the same glove.
Culture media. We don't have the opportunity to build these communities.
By the way, asshole, you're on YouTube. It's an American company. It's available in Canada regardless. He's not been knocked off there.
All we pointed out is that Trudeau's introduction of emergency measures to shut down largely peaceful protests.
Largely peaceful? That's a bit of a wiggle.
In Ottawa was at odds with the kind of democratic principles he was espousing when critiquing Russia's horrific actions.
Bullshit. Cutting off funding, especially foreign funding, for allegedly domestic protests that are blockades of roads, again, stopping ambulances and school buses and people getting to and from work, which is not putting your body on the line as an individual and going, we're all standing arm in arm, all 37 of us. And we're going to stand here in this street blocking things to show you how much we care. Now, we don't have to do that. I just park my truck here. Just flatten the tires. And if you try to take me out, I'll threaten you with violence. Oh, P.S., my buddy who pulled up in the truck over there is loaded with guns. Largely peaceful.
In Ukraine. Let's note, for example, as Chrystia Freeland pointed out, that the aspect of the...
There's a lot of fucking edits in this. Somebody had to go back and reread what they were arguing.
Emergency measures that allow free financial access remains in place still.
Right. And?
Advance on this argument.
Jesus Christ, how many edits are in this piece?
Assets remains in place still. An advance on this argument is that in Canadian Parliament, they are now themselves investigating the introduction of those measures and whether or not it was anti-democratic.
Yeah, that's how democracy works. The tools are available to the Prime Minister. He uses them specifically for this. And then they go, maybe that's a bit too much power for one person to have, so let's look into it, and if it is, we'll change the law. That's how a democracy works. Even in their overreach, they're better than Putin and Xi Jinping's situation.
On Monday, a joint committee of Canada's Parliament officially launched an inquiry into the Trudeau government's actions against the Freedom Convoy civil liberties protesters.
Which should be in quotes.
The unprecedented inquiry will look into allegations...
Unprecedented. That's in quotes.
The Trudeau government violated protesters' charters rights when they arrested and detained them without charge, as well as the extreme actions of freezing bank accounts of protesters. Now, some of you might say, well, that is good, because that's an indication that there is democracy in Canada because they're investigating those actions.
Right.
I would agree. That is a good sign, isn't it? Because it's pretty bad that it happened, but at least there's being an investigation. But remember...
Yeah, but it's no different. Remember... It had to happen, and then they looked into it afterwards. Or in Russia, they don't even look into it, so that's better.
Then we have to look at, does the investigation lead to what? A revocation of those powers? Someone being fined?
I don't know, move to Canada and fucking vote.
Meaningful change in democracy? Or does it become something that's a phatic exercise that's ultimately theatrical that don't change anything? We don't know that yet.
Yeah, we don't know that, but I do want to leave that as the final thought in your mind, because the insinuation is that I'll make three options available to you. The third one I'll give the most words to. I'll leave that at the end and go, I don't know. What do you think? Tell me below. Is it the last thing I said? That it's clear that I believe? Because that's how things work, isn't it? That's how governments work.
I've got my suspicions. The committee is
Right. Fucking hell. It's just an opinion show. That's all it is. He's just having an open discussion with his fucking self.
up of several Liberal Party and Conservative.
By the way, for the record, I love engaging with the chat, and I'm glad to bring it in sometimes, but this is not an open discussion. This is relatively rhetorical. I'm giving my opinion on things, and I hope it is shared with others and people find it entertaining, but I don't dovetail it to some illusion of community, like community farming of opinions. Especially when it's like, beyond just doing that's a bit weird. Lying about doing it, which is what he does, is horseshit.
Party appointees, as well as appointee selected by the New Democrats. Much of the investigation will look at Trudeau's attempt at justification for invoking the Emergencies Act.
Which is, by the way, source, Reclaim the Net. A website, I suppose?
Now, of course he'll be... And of course, no one in their right mind would say that these actions, which I personally disagree with, are comparable to the military action happening elsewhere in the world.
That's exactly what you're saying. That's exactly what you said. I didn't imply it. I just allowed for the inference thereof. I mean, can you see the difference? Implying would require bold and direct speech, whereas allowing for the inference thereof is that I'm just planting seeds and pretending I didn't throw them on the ground at all.
Of course, there's no comparison to be made. But what I think is worth observing is the way that our democracies are altering, the way that our reporting on democracy is altering, the way that conversation is being closed down.
Yeah, that's what's happening. You mean, by the way, you're saying that democracies aren't really democracies and they're probably bullshit anyways, and even if they do try to do something, it's never going to work out, even though it does mostly, and you happily live in one of those countries, but you don't really, and if it doesn't work, you notice that. If it does work, it's supposed to, so fuck it.
What it seems like to me is that for a number of varying reasons, whether it's anti-fascist or anti-this or anti-that, conversation is being shut down. The ability to communicate is being shut down.
No, it isn't. The ability to blockade roads with trucks is being shut down. You can talk all you want.
The ability to criticize power is being taken away.
No, it isn't. Asshole who is saying this on YouTube, and the only reasoning behind his argument is that there are articles criticizing his behavior and his argument.
The Emergencies Act is a piece of legislation that was passed in 1988. It gives the federal government emergency powers in times of crisis. This can include things like freezing bank accounts, deploying the National Police Force, and other measures.
Okay, so he has these abilities. They said, what can we do? They said, well, legally, you can do this, this, and this. Really, can we? Yeah, you can. Okay, well, let's look into it and see if that would be valuable, if that would put an end to any of this stuff. I think it would. The Emergency Act is a piece of legislation that was passed in 1988. It was passed by democratic means. And it wasn't even like a post 9/11 thing. This is 1988, for fuck's sake.
Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act to give himself these unprecedented powers.
Well, they're not unprecedented. They were precedented. Those powers were enumerated in legislation in 1988.
The RCMP were deployed to remove protesters.
Blockades.
Some bank accounts were frozen without a court order.
Because they didn't need one. Some bank accounts. You mean foreign ones? Or their equivalents in the state?
These things did happen.
Yeah, they did. Legally. Based on a bill that was passed in fucking 1988.
Now, you decide for yourself.
I've decided that it is democratic for and it is a useful expression of power for the prime minister of a country to use a law that was voted in before he graduated fucking high school.
Intelligent person. What's the problem? That happening or someone telling you that that's happening?
Well, it's not that you're telling me that it's happening. You're lying about it. I mean, even just the word unprecedented, when it's literally precedented.
And suggesting that that happening might be a problem.
Yeah, that's what you're getting kicked. No, that isn't it, by the way. This is a straw man, and it's bullshit. He conflated this with Russia. And he has, like, because of these powers, which were voted in 1988 and have been there through successive PMs in Canada for decades, because those exist and because Trudeau used them to deal with a mix of foreign money and Canadian money in these blockades, not protests, blockades of streets and roads around the capital and around their entries into the country, that is somehow the same as what Vladimir Putin does. The snuffing of dissidents, the spraying of poison in his political opponents' faces, the jailing, and he's giving Alexei Navalny 15 more fucking years. Anybody who protests gets 15 years. And the conflation of this is so fucking disgusting.
What do you think the role of the free media is?
Exactly this. They're criticizing you for your bullshit analogy, and you, because the criticism they have of you is just and legitimate, are acting like a victim and lying about their motivations.
Point out that things like that are happening, or to shut that down, or mitigate it, or back up power. Many feel that it's an abuse of power and that it should only be used in cases of true emergency, not to shut down speech.
Well, it's not shutting down speech. It's stopping a blockade. You can talk all you fucking want. At what point, even in jail, you can speak. You're not losing speech in this. And if you were literally protesting like everybody else has to protest, this never would have come up. It's the blockade that's a problem. Blockades are not speech. They aren't. It's not the same thing. Stop pretending they are. Stop conflating the two. Nonsense.
In another separate committee, MPs were warned by Assembly of First Nations National Chief Roseanne Archibald that the unprecedented decision to invoke the Emergencies Act had broad spectrum consequences. My concern is the Act is a tool, and the tool itself can actually name and actually place labels upon people.
Okay. Yes, the could do emergencies.
Said. The implications of the Emergencies Act are far and wide, and that is why I'm standing before you. I'm a former activist myself, and I've been involved in civil actions and charged. Now, obviously, as the...
Right. Part of civil disobedience is breaking the law and being willing to go to jail for it or suffer normal consequences to get your point across. It's not civil disobedience if you're not disobeying. Also, that person was more than likely arrested while at a sit-in with a bunch of other people. It wasn't because they parked their truck sideways on the fucking highway.
Of the First Nation people, Roseanne Archibald would be the very kind of person that Trudeau would be looking to form alliances with and would be looking to condemn, say, truck.
Right. But this is like slippery slope paranoia that happens all the time. This is this is the same, like, gun activists. Like, if they start, taking guns away from domestic abusers, what's next? I kick my dog, they take my gun away?
Oh, you truckers, remember what they said. They're racist, they're misogynists. Well, here is a female chief of the First Nation Assembly saying, I don't like these measures, because any right-thinking person does not want their freedom reduced, or their ability to protest controlled, or their money.
Yeah, then don't blockade a road. Protest. Gather a lot of people to your cause. Use your ability for speech as a messaging tool. I mean, what if it's not a truck in a road? What if somebody just decided, well, I've got a dump truck full of gravel. I'll just fill the sewer downtown with gravel, back it up into the entire city, just so that shit and waste just flows backwards out of protest, because it's free speech. All I'm doing is blockading the sewer. I blocked one pipe. See what I mean?
Be able to be frozen by the state, because the application of those measures will change according to the flavors of the day.
Right. And because the flavor of the day could be that I, in protesting Russell's bullshit, decide to rent a U-Haul, fill it with cement, and park it in front of his driveway, and pop the tires, and set tripwires on it so that if you try to move it, it will blow up. It's free speech. I'm just trying to express myself, Russell. By the way, no one do that. That's insane. Stop it.
A little while ago, you couldn't talk openly about so many aspects of the coronavirus pandemic.
Yes, you could. You couldn't assert things you didn't know that would cause violence towards some people, but you could talk about anything. I talked about all of it. I mean, like, you know how many times I did videos and they're like, well, I can't even say COVID because it'll go. They weren't getting yanked off the fucking air. They got a yellow dollar sign next to their video because not all advertisers want their ads on people talking about news and specifically COVID. They would rather put it on makeup tutorials and fucking, how to play guitar videos. That's why so that's a full green. And if you talk about sensitive issues, you get a yellow. That's the only reason. It's not censorship.
Increasingly, those protocols are altering, sometimes because new information.
Yeah, all the time.
Revealed, but sometimes it's because the attitudes have changed.
Yeah, it's just attitudes. Attitudes based on new information.
I believe that you should be able to have an open conversation and be
fucking open conversation, TM.
Wrong all of the time, because this.
Yeah, all the time. If people are in a tunnel and a flood is coming, you should be able in the middle of that to start discussing swimming lessons.
It's a democracy.
Escape is what most people are going to want to do, but there has to be a conversation about sit and listen to the radio as the water rises. You have to be able to speak about anything. Otherwise, are you really free? Glug, glug.
I want to be told what I can say and what I can't say and be shut down. And
you can say anything you fucking want. Just don't block ambulances with your goddamn car.
I have the ability to protest. Can't you see how it's closing in?
No, it isn't. It fucking well isn't. As a matter of fact, it's more like certain people in increasingly smaller groups are getting bolder in their assertion of what control they should have, and that the tyranny we've always been warned about that's supposed to come from Big Brother is actually coming from fucking Little Brother. Is coming from the Capitol rioters. Is coming from people who are small in number compared to the rest of the goddamn country, but believe that somehow they deserve to have their political will enacted over everyone else's, no matter how small that is. And their assertion of those rights come at the expense of everyone else. Even, by the way, when they are absolutely wrong.
Shut down your bank account. They can stop you protesting.
No, they can't. They can shut down some bank accounts. Group ones in particular. Not your individual ones, unless they have, a warrant or whatever. Canada rules are slightly different than the United States. And again, this is a law that was voted in 1988. If they want to rescind it, then that's what they'll do.
They can stop people on the internet saying, hey, what about this protesting being shut down?
No, they can't. People, there's nothing, no one is ever being stopped from going, what's the deal with this being shut down? They do sometimes go, it's being shut down, because it's to distract from the fact that Hunter Biden eats babies. And the Chinese intentionally attacked us with a bioweapon, and people are, being slaughtered rightfully, and they deserve. Hold on one second. There you go. That's when you're asserting that you know why, which he does all the goddamn time.
Why would you do that if you didn't have an agenda? And
Russell, you have an agenda, dum-dum.
I'm sure many of the people that know.
Yeah, they don't realize they've been hypnotized. They think they're telling the truth.
That as
Oh, so you're talking about Fox News or this one. You wouldn't have these kind of followers if you weren't giving this kind of message. Because a lot of the Alex Jones viewers are jumping ship. A lot of the Fox viewers are looking for somebody to go, aha, I told you so. Even this guy thinks I'm right. Right?
under Mr. Trudeau's decree, police had the authority to
Oh, Wall Street Journal. Owned by Rupert Murdoch. Gosh, whoever wrote this probably doesn't even realize that their message is being dictated by Rupert Murdoch, because they wouldn't even have that job.
back crowds on foot or with horses, use pepper spray, enter trucks and other vehicles by whatever means necessary, and make arrests en masse.
By whatever means necessary. Oh, that's a bit incendiary, don't you think? I'm sorry, is there an accusation that police under Trudeau fired bazookas or opened fire on these people? I mean, any means necessary is big talk. I mean, what did they had the authority to push back crowds on foot or with horses. Okay. Yeah, they do that with things that turn riotous. And use pepper spray. Oops. Enter trucks and other vehicles by whatever means necessary. Yeah, especially if they've been blockaded. You can bust the window if somebody's left their truck there to block the roads on purpose. And make arrests en masse. Yeah, that's what happens when that's civil disobedience. Put your money where your mouth is, asshole.
The Canadian Civil Liberties Association at the time stated the federal government has not met the threshold necessary to...
At the time. Then they saw the trucks with the guns in them and went, oh shit, okay, we're sorry, we didn't realize.
...invoke the Emergencies Act. This law creates a high and clear standard for good reason. The Act allows government to bypass ordinary democratic processes. This standard has not been met.
Yeah, because they were representing those people. Of course that's what they're going to say.
The Emergencies Act can only
Doesn't mean they're wrong even. It just means to consider the source.
be invoked when a situation seriously threatens the ability of the Government of Canada to preserve the sovereignty, security and territorial integrity of Canada, and when the situation cannot be effectively dealt with under any other law of Canada.
Right, because they were blocking ports of entry.
That's the Canadian Civil Liberties Association.
Right, who were representing some of the truckers and are purists about whatever the version of the Canadian Bill of Rights
Already
is.
heard from the leader of the First Nations, and in their own parliament there's an inquiry. So
Yeah, democracy is ongoing. Some people are for it, some people are against it. There were more people for it when it got passed. There might be more people against it. What the hell?
evidently there is good reason to suspect
By the way, I don't know why the audio is wonky in this situation. I apologize.
democratic action took place in Canada, and that is all I said. And for that,
No, it's not all you said. What was the assertion here, dum-dum?
in Canada, and that reason to suspect that undemocratic action took place in Canada.
No, it didn't. It absolutely did not. There's no reason to suspect it at all. The PM had a law that gave him this and gave him a judgment call to enact it. Whether or not the Canadian ACLU, the CCLU, believed it or not is immaterial to his judgment call. The question of whether his judgment can be trusted in this situation or if he went too far will be handled in the next election. And just like the legislation was handled in an election in fucking 17 elections ago. It is democratic. It's not anti-democratic. In many ways, the same way, as much as I hate the Patriot Act, isn't technically anti-democratic because it got voted in by a majority of people. And lesson on us to who we elect, who in the future will be for or against those kind of bills. And I make judgments in a lot of ways based on those kind of assessments of my candidates. Because that's democracy. But that that law already passed and got signed when the guy I voted for didn't become president. And something extraordinary happened, and the guy who I didn't vote for got elected by a minority of the votes, it turns out, by 500, and he would have lost. But in the case of Bush was sworn in, was the president. The field was so narrow that even though, Gore had won Florida by 500 some odd votes and should have been president, right? That was the big argument at the time. Didn't matter. Because the difference was so narrow that neither side had a mandate in this circumstance. And the guy who actually got in by that hair's breadth was the kind of guy who would make a decision that would lead us to the Iraq War, for example. And under the circumstance, the gift he was given in that regard by 9/11 was the ability to scare the country into a lot of stuff. Looking back, a lot of people aren't going to make that same mistake again. As a matter of fact, we've almost overcorrected in some ways in how we're shy about some of the things that involvements we should have had that we could have played a positive part in, but we're trying to get away from. The idea that any military action is definitely going to be bad. But that's democracy. Sucks sometimes. Sucks being on the receiving end of democracy. And quite frankly, I've said this many times to my Democratic friends. We've got 48 senators. We haven't earned the right to bulldoze policy through the Senate. We have not. State by state, we've left it up to other people. That's democracy. But I prefer that dirty mess of having to express my political opinions and sell it to my fellow Americans and find some sort of consensus versus fucking Putin and Xi and Saudi Arabia. And pretending that there's even a balance there is grotesque.
And that is all I said.
No, it isn't.
And for that, I'm labelled a conspiracy theorist, charged with being a right-wing person.
No. Dude, none of that comes from this one article. This is disingenuous.
Some of you are right-wing people, and guess what? I don't
Some of you are. Most of my audience is. Who cares?
mind what you believe in. I'm sure you believe stuff that I don't believe, and you know stuff I don't know. And perhaps
That's definitely true.
together we will discover that we have more and more in common. And perhaps together...
No, Russell, we won't. Because while I don't believe that a kid can ask a stupid question, I sure as fuck believe adults can. And I also think that somebody who pretends they don't know better is worse than someone who doesn't. Because the person who doesn't can actually be taught. And the person who pretends, like Russell, is using this as a tool to manipulate others.
We will start to realise that the mainstream media is not our friend, and that the government is...
Yeah, the government's not... an open discussion about how the mainstream media is not our friend, the government is not our friend, the culture...
our friend, and that our culture is operating to keep us separated from one another.
What the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean, our culture? This is a new one. This is something he's added. What do you mean, our culture? Western culture is the most pluralistic culture on earth. America, with all of our problems, is the most racially diverse country on the planet. My culture tells me that all men, and therefore all women, are created equal. And though it came out of, flawed as it is, people, it ultimately is leading to an availability for, freedom of endeavor for more human beings than ever existed on the planet previous. My culture tells me that that minorities and majorities and LGBT people and straight people are equal under the law and deserve, respect until told otherwise, until you learn otherwise. That's what my culture tells me. It also tells me that my music taste and your music taste may differ, but I don't give a fuck. And I'm glad that you found some music that makes you happy. I don't have to laugh at what you laugh at. That's my culture. What I'm curious when he says our culture wants us, to separate us or something. What as opposed to what? What's the alternative culture? Is it this like utopian, farcical Marxist version of things that he thinks he believes on some level when he absolutely fucking does not? That somehow that's the magic cure? Or is he specifically talking about a more uniform, CCP or Russian format?
We must continually look for opportunities to communicate openly and honestly and become circumspect and indeed downright suspicious about the agenda.
No. Paranoid is bullshit. It's as much a hypnotism as being completely gullible about stuff. He is absolutely the flip coin of the maggots and Trumpers that just believe Trump is right about everything.
Of newspapers that call themselves The Independent, while they're owned, at least in significant part, by the Saudi Arabian state. Do your own research.
Yeah, do your own research. The Guardian told me that. Also, I quoted the Wall Street Journal, which is almost wholly owned by Rupert Murdoch and some family members. I didn't bring that up, though. A lot what they wrote about me.
On how independent they're likely to be with that kind of alliance. But that's just what I think. What do you think?
Oh, God. It's right out of a fucking class. That's just what I think. What do you think? If I was actual justice warrior, I would sue.
I might be wrong. I want your comments. I want to learn from you.
No, you don't. He's not gonna. Again, this is a lie. Fucking hell.
I'm not so arrogant as to believe that I know stuff you don't. I know.
Dude, you just told me to fear my own culture, my government, and the media in my country. Not treat it with a mild, healthy skepticism, but understand that they mean me ill. That my government is actively trying to harm me. In a democracy. Because this is an indiscriminate statement about everybody. And that there is somehow a better version of it without ever putting it forward.
You've suffered things that I don't understand. I'm not like the mainstream media that thinks they know better than you, that think you're dumb and stupid and your job is to sit down and obey. I believe you should have a voice. I believe you've got rights, and I believe the time is coming where we're gonna need to express them. Hit me up in the comments below. What other stories would...
Yeah, hit me up in the comments below about how your free speech has been curtailed, and I'll do a video about how I'm not allowed to talk about what you've asked me to talk about.
Like to see us communicate about. If you're not subscribed yet, join us.
No. No. I'd rather just tell people to subscribe to my channel, Russell. I just have to. I'm not gonna let you sell. It's too late. It's 2 o'clock in the morning here. It's 2:22, and I'm already way past my bedtime, and I got to go to sleep at some point so I can get up and take my kid clothes shopping tomorrow because he's growing like a weed. So there. Oh, God, it's so aggravating. Thanks, Dragon. Yes, please subscribe to my channel. And if you're seeing a clip of this, comment below. Oh, fuck, man. I can't even, sell like this bullshit. I don't know how are people this capable of bullshitting themselves this much? I find it amazing. I find it And I'm glad I do. I would say it's kind of like when murder makes the news. You want murder to make the news. When you turn on the news and there's murder, 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 that's because there's not, in terms of interpersonal interactions, murder's fairly rare. Even when it's way up, it's still way down. Life is kicking death's ass right now, even with COVID deaths. More people being born than dying in the United States and Mexico. Canada, not so much. You guys need to start having sex again. Europe, you've got your own problems. But watching somebody like Russell just actively BS people, and no, he's gotta know. I mean, it's such a fucking flim flam. That's what all the gesturing is about. The whole like I don't know, do you know, do this, point there. Blah. Oh, God. It's, and and again, I'm sure that there'll be some trollage that, and even bringing it up seems to foment this kind of thing. But there'll be some trollage about, jealousy about his numbers. The only thing I'm jealous of in any of the clips we do is Glenn Beck's studio. I've told you guys this, not the little cowboy bedroom one he has in his garage. I mean the weird blue, like internal Predator spaceship one. And even then, I have to say, when he had his Sonic cup on the desktop the other day, I was like, that studio smells like French fries. I'm done. But when somebody like Russell bullshits the people watching so blatantly, and at the end of it going, I could be wrong, but don't trust your government, don't trust the media, don't trust, but because you can't be trusted. But what do you think? Put it like, don't pretend you don't have a bias when you do. I absolutely cop to mine, because I feel as a human being, and I'm sure anybody who's looked at their own point of view, because that's what I would say. I don't have a bias. I have a distinct point of view. A bias is when somebody handed you a way of looking things and you never questioned it, so you just stick with it. A point of view is you've vetted a lot of different arguments and you found one that resonates with your ethics, your morals, your ideals, and within that you're like, yeah, there is right and wrong. There's gray areas in some interactions, but in others there just frankly aren't. And to pretend that there are gray areas in in the black and white circumstances we come across, because under the illusion that we don't fear complexity at all. And by the way, do you notice how Russell picked that phrase up after I started doing videos about him? Hi, Russell. Hi. But there's a difference between not fearing complexity and being comfortable with it, and insisting on it because you fear decisions. You fear, making a choice and sticking to it. You're so afraid of being wrong that you pretend everything is basically wrong all the time. There is no right to be found, and even if we saw it, how would we know, because we're so wrong? It's a cop-out. Everything about what Russell does it's a cop-out. And I think the most irritating thing is that he just knows it. And it's just like that. Ugh. Oh, I hope Russell sees the chat too. I doubt it. I don't even think he looks at his own. He just tells them, look below. I've got staff that will look at your comments, and then we'll do a metadata analysis on we'll see where we got a spike, and then I'll do another video about that, and we'll check to see if our thumbnails are sufficiently violent. Fuck you, Russell. You grifting bastard. You low-res David Koresh prick. I'm not here to have an open discussion. I'm not. I have a point of view I'm expressing, and I hope it resonates with people. But I'm like, I don't know. Do you know? Does anyone know? Is knowing even possible? Shut the fuck up. Especially when you're having that kind of conversation and your thumbnails look exactly like Alex Jones. Go, I have the documents. We know exactly where the lizard people are. Fucking hell. It's just so gross. So fucking gross. Ugh. Russell, you're a prick. Ugh. And this pretending, look at this hand gesture. I don't know. Do you know? We don't know. If I thought he didn't actually know, if he was actually some sort of like Carl Pilkington level idiot, I'd let it slide. But we all know better. Anyways, you guys are wonderful. Thanks for sticking around. Sorry for the rant at the end, but sometimes I just get disgusted by this bullshit. Much love to you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.